The invitation came through the family group chat at 8:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Emergency family meeting. Saturday, 2 p.m. Attendance mandatory. My Uncle Marcus, the self-appointed patriarch since my father's passing, had spoken. The group erupted with confirmations, each more enthusiastic than the last. I stared at my phone, sitting in my tiny one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn that my family loved to criticize. The same apartment that helped me save over $2,000 a month compared to the luxury buildings my cousins lived in. The same modest space that had been the foundation of my entire financial empire, though none of them knew that. "Olivia, we expect you to be there," my mother texted privately. "Uncle Marcus specifically asked about you." Of course he did. I was the family's favorite topic of discussion. The disappointing daughter. The one who wasted her degree by taking a low-level job at a tech startup instead of joining the family's real estate business. They didn't know that startup had made me a millionaire before I turned 27, or that I now silently owned shares in half the buildings my uncle's company managed. "I'll be there," I replied simply. My cousin Sophia called immediately. "Liv, you might want to prepare yourself," she whispered. "They're planning something big. I overheard Mom and Uncle Marcus talking. They're calling it the intervention." I almost laughed. "The intervention? They think you're struggling, living below your potential. Uncle Marcus has this whole presentation prepared about bringing you into the family business, getting you a proper apartment." I glanced at my laptop screen, still open to my investment dashboard. The numbers glowed back at me. $147 million in tech investments, $89 million in real estate holdings, $23 million in cryptocurrency. Total net worth, $259 million. All built quietly over 8 years while they thought I was just getting by. "Thanks for the warning," I told Sophia. "I'll handle it." Saturday arrived crisp and clear. I dressed deliberately in my most modest outfit. Simple black pants, a gray sweater from Target, scuffed boots. The costume of someone they needed to save. The family estate loomed ahead as I parked my 10-year-old Honda among the gleaming luxury cars. Inside, the tension was thick enough to cut. 28 family members sat in the formal living room, arranged like a corporate boardroom. Uncle Marcus stood at the front, next to a projection screen. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. "Olivia," Uncle Marcus said as I took my seat. "Thank you for joining us." I nodded, saying nothing. "We've called this meeting because we're concerned," he began, clicking to his first slide. "About you, about your future, about the shame your current situation brings to our family name." The room murmured in agreement. My cousin Derek, who'd just crashed his third Porsche, nodded sagely. "Let's look at the facts," Marcus continued. "You're 32 years old, living in a rental apartment in an questionable neighborhood, working at some obscure tech company instead of building real wealth with the family business." He clicked through slides showing property values, career trajectories, family expectations, each point designed to highlight my supposed failures. "Your father would be disappointed," he added, twisting the knife. "He built this legacy for you, and you're throwing it away." I felt the familiar surge of anger at the mention of my father, but kept my face neutral. Dad had actually encouraged me to forge my own path, to build something for myself. His last words to me were, "Don't let them clip your wings, butterfly." "What do you have to say for yourself?" Uncle Marcus demanded. The room turned to me, expecting apologies, tears, submission. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out my tablet. Actually, Uncle Marcus, I said calmly, I have a presentation of my own. He blinked, thrown off script. This isn't the time for. I think it is. I stood and walked to the front of the room. You mentioned building real wealth. Let's talk about that. I connected my tablet to the projector, watching their confused faces. The first slide appeared. A satellite view of their office building on Madison Avenue. This is your company headquarters, I said. Purchased last year for $68 million. Except it wasn't purchased by Harrison Real Estate Holdings. Uncle Marcus frowned. What are you talking about? Of course it was. No, I said softly. It was purchased by OLI Ventures, my company. I clicked to the next slide, showing the ownership documents, along with 6 other properties in your portfolio. The room erupted in whispers. Uncle Marcus's face turned red. That's impossible. You can't afford. I clicked again. My investment portfolio filled the screen, numbers clear as day. The room fell silent, as if all the oxygen had been sucked out at once. As of this morning, I said into the silence, my net worth is $259 million. That tiny apartment you mock. It's in a building I own. That obscure tech company. I was employee number 4. My shares are worth 8 figures. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Uncle Marcus gripped the podium for support. But, he stammered, why didn't you tell us? I looked at him steadily. Because you never asked. You were too busy planning interventions to notice I didn't need one. The room stayed frozen. Years of assumptions were crumbling around them. My cousin Derek had dropped his phone. Aunt Patricia looked like she might faint. Now, I said, clicking to my final slide, should we talk about the real estate market? Because I have some concerns about your recent acquisitions. The silence lasted exactly 37 seconds before Aunt Patricia found her voice. This must be some kind of mistake, she sputtered, her perfectly manicured hands trembling as she adjusted her pearl necklace. Olivia has always been modest. I smiled slightly. Would you like to see the bank statements, Aunt Patricia? Or perhaps the property deeds? I have those too. Uncle Marcus had collapsed into a nearby chair, his face ashen. How? He whispered. How did you manage this without any of us knowing? I pulled up another slide. Let's start with 2016. While you were all mocking my entry-level job at that weird little startup, I was earning stock options. The company was called DataSphere. You might recognize it now. It went public last year at $86 billion. Derek leaned forward, suddenly interested. But that's the company that revolutionized AI data processing. Yes, I nodded, and I own 2% of it. But that was just the beginning. I took those earnings and started investing in real estate. Not the luxury developments you chase, but strategic properties in emerging tech corridors. Silicon Valley, Austin, Boston. My mother stood up shakily. Olivia, sweetheart, why didn't you come to us for advice? We could have helped, like you helped when I wanted to take that tech job, I asked quietly, or when I moved to Brooklyn instead of the Upper East Side. The family's idea of help has always come with conditions. The room shifted uncomfortably. They remembered all the snide comments, the interventions, the constant pressure to conform to their version of success. But that's not why I'm showing you this, I continued, clicking to a new slide. These are your company's recent acquisitions. 6 properties, all purchased above market value, all in areas with declining tech presence. Uncle Marcus straightened, his business instincts kicking in despite his shock. Those properties are prime locations. They were, I interrupted, 5 years ago. But you're so focused on traditional metrics that you've missed the shift. Tech companies are moving out of those areas. I know because I've been tracking their real estate plans through my network. I show them the data, vacancy rates, market trends, projected values. The same information I'd been trying to share for years, only to be dismissed as inexperienced. Your portfolio is about to take a significant hit, I explained, unless you pivot quickly. Cousin James, who'd recently been promoted to VP despite having no qualifications beyond being Uncle Marcus's son, scoffed. And I suppose you think you know better than us. I pulled up one final document. Actually, yes. My properties in the same market have seen a 47% increase in value over the past 18 months. Because I understand where the industry is actually heading, not where you think it should be. The room erupted in chaos. Some family members started furiously Googling my claims. Others whispered frantically among themselves. Uncle Marcus just stared at me, seeing me, really seeing me, for perhaps the first time. What do you want? He finally asked. Why show us all this now? I took a deep breath. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I want to propose a merger. Your experience with traditional real estate, combined with my tech industry insights and capital. But I held up a hand as excitement flickered across his face. There would be conditions. What conditions? My mother asked softly. First, a complete restructuring of the company leadership. No more promotions based on family ties. We hire the best people, period. Second, a new investment strategy focused on future trends, not past patterns. And third, I paused, looking around the room, an end to these family interventions. No more judging people's choices just because they don't match your expectations. Uncle Marcus started to speak, but Aunt Patricia cut him off. And if we refuse? I smiled, not unkindly. Then I'll continue buying properties in your target markets. Only I'll do it first, with better information and more efficient capital. Your choice. The weight of the moment hung in the air. Decades of family dynamics, power structures, and assumptions about success were being rewritten in real time. My cousin Sophia, who'd warned me about the intervention, suddenly started laughing. Oh my God, she gasped. All those times you asked to join our real estate meetings, you weren't looking for a job. You were doing market research. I winked at her. Someone was paying attention. The family meeting that was supposed to be my intervention had turned into something else entirely. A reckoning, a redistribution of power. And perhaps, if they were smart enough to take my offer, the beginning of something new. Uncle Marcus stood up slowly, straightening his tie. I think, he said carefully, we should continue this discussion over dinner. Perhaps at your apartment? The same apartment they'd spent years criticizing. I caught the hint of humility in his voice and nodded. I'll have my chef prepare something suitable. Your chef? My mother squeaked. Of course, I replied. Did you think I actually cooked all those holiday dishes myself? The drive back to my modest Brooklyn apartment was silent. My mother had insisted on riding with me, perhaps hoping to bridge the years of misunderstandings during the 20-minute journey. She kept glancing at my old Honda, no doubt wondering why I drove it when I could afford a fleet of luxury cars. It's a good car, I said finally. Reliable, inconspicuous. Like you, she whispered. All these years we thought. You saw what you expected to see, I replied, pulling into the private underground garage of my building. The security guard nodded respectfully as we passed. Mr. Santos, is everything prepared upstairs? Yes, Ms. Olivia. Your chef has everything arranged, and the documents you requested are in your office. My mother's eyes widened as we stepped into the private elevator. Documents? Merger proposals, financial projections, the kind of homework you always told me to do, remember? The elevator opened directly into my apartment, and I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath. The tiny space they'd pitied me for was actually 3 units combined into a 4,000 square foot masterpiece. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the Manhattan skyline and original artwork. Much of it from emerging artists I'd invested in adorned the walls. Uncle Marcus and the others arrived minutes later, their luxury cars having taken longer to find parking on the street. Their faces as they entered were a study in dawning comprehension. Please sit. I gestured to the massive dining table, already set for dinner. Chef Andre has prepared something special. Andre? Aunt Patricia perked up. Not Andre Dubois? The same. I nodded. He consults for my restaurants when he's not running his 3-star Michelin establishment. Your restaurants. Derek choked on his water. Among other things. I took my seat at the head of the table, a position Uncle Marcus had occupied at family gatherings for as long as I could remember. But let's discuss business first. Over 7 courses of exquisite French cuisine. I laid out my vision. The merger would create a new entity, Harrison Oley Holdings, combining their traditional real estate expertise with my tech industry connections and modern investment approach. These are the upcoming tech corridors, I explained, showing them maps on the dining room's hidden projection screen. Austin, Raleigh, Boulder, Portland, but not the obvious areas. We need to be ahead of the curve. Like you were with us, Uncle Marcus said quietly, buying properties before we even knew they were valuable. I nodded. The future of real estate isn't just about location anymore. It's about understanding the industry's driving growth, the companies planning expansion, the startups about to explode. And you have access to all this information? James asked, his earlier skepticism replaced by genuine interest. I sit on 12 different tech company boards, I replied. I've invested in over 40 startups. When they succeed, they need space to grow. Real estate isn't just about buildings anymore. It's about ecosystems. As dessert was served, a deconstructed apple tart that made Aunt Patricia actually cry, I distributed the formal proposal documents. Take time to review these, I said. Have your lawyers look them over. But understand this, the offer expires in 72 hours. Why such a rush? My mother asked. I pulled up one final presentation on the screen. Because 3 major tech companies are announcing relocations next month. Their employees will need housing. Their operations will need facilities. The properties need to be secured before those announcements drive up prices. Uncle Marcus was already reading intently, his business instincts overriding any lingering family dynamics. These projections, they're aggressive. They're conservative, I corrected. I've only included confirmed expansions, not potential ones. The actual opportunity is larger. As the evening wound down, the family dynamics had shifted palpably. Gone were the condescending comments about my lifestyle choices. Instead, cousins who'd once mocked my career were asking about tech investment opportunities. Aunts who tried to set me up with suitable men were suddenly interested in my business strategies. One last thing, I said as they prepared to leave. If we do this merger, we do it my way. No more nepotism. No more old boys club. We hire the best people, period. Can you handle that? Uncle Marcus looked around the apartment, at the success they'd been too blind to see, at the empire I'd built while they'd been planning my intervention, and nodded slowly. "I think," he said carefully, "we'd be fools not to." 3 days later, the merger documents were signed. 6 months after that, Harrison Ola Holdings had doubled its portfolio value. The family that had once gathered to save me was now following my lead. My father would have loved the irony. Last week, I finally sold the Honda. Not because I needed something flashier, but because I'd found another young professional who needed a reliable car to get to their modest job. I included a note with the keys. Sometimes the biggest dreams hide behind the smallest beginnings. Trust your path. The family still holds regular meetings, but they're different now. Less about judgment, more about growth. Less about maintaining appearances, more about creating value. And that tiny apartment they'd been so worried about, I kept it. Renovated it into a startup incubator for young entrepreneurs who, like me, have dreams bigger than their current circumstances. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong, it's showing them a better way to be right. As for Uncle Marcus, he recently admitted something at a board meeting. I spent years trying to protect the family legacy, only to discover that Olivia was building its future. I didn't say, "I told you so." I didn't need to. Success speaks for itself. Sometimes it just needs a little time to find its voice.